Hello, I'm Aaron Nightingale, owner of Nightingale LED Solutions and co-owner of the LED Costume Academy. I've been in the art of wearable electronics for over 10 years. Hopefully, you've watched the first video of this series, especially if you're just starting out. If not, I suggest you go back and watch it. It'll explain all the tools that I use for soldering. This video will focus on different tip types and care of your tips. And let me pause just to remind you to subscribe and like this video. First, Series B, or conical, is a general purpose bit. This tip is most used especially for beginners. It has a pointed tip that can be used at any angle and is good for getting into small spaces with narrow pitch and tall integrated circuits, commonly referred to as ICs around it. Second, Series C, bevel. Bevel is good for SMD work and drag soldering. It has a rounded tip so that it can hold more solder. It's also a good general purpose tip because it has good surface area to transfer heat to your workpiece. Third, Series D, chisel, also general purpose. This tip is good for splicing wires as it has a chisel point with more surface area for good heat transfer. I like this tip if you don't have the steadiness hand with a smaller tip. Fourth, Series I, needle tip. This tip is good for surface mount soldering as it has a very pointed conical tip. Its limited surface area doesn't support good heat flow, so it's not recommended for wire splicing. Fifth, Series J, curved for detail work. This tip has a point, but it's also curved to allow access to narrow pitch areas. Depending on the point size, it's smaller to the Series B and or Series I tip. Six is the Series K, a knife tip. This tip is good for removing solder bridges and drag soldering. It has a wider tip than the chisel and more pointed. 7. Spade, tunnel, and spatula. These three tips are good for SMD work and have all their pros. I've never used them as the SMD work I do is limited, but I suggest if you are interested in SMD work that you research these on your own. Or if you have used them, leave a comment letting me and our audience know what you like about them. Tip care. Before you start your session, wipe your tip with a soft rag and some isopropyl alcohol to remove any surface contaminants. If there is a buildup or large particles that won't come off, you can use a little metal wool to remove it. Heat your iron and dip it in metal wool to clean. Apply a light coat of solder to prevent oxidation while you prep your work. Solder your items, cleaning the tip after each task with a damp sponge or copper wool. If you find that solder won't stick to your tip, you can use tip tinner to further clean your iron. Apply and wipe off until the tip has a nice shine. Then reapply a small amount of solder. At the end of soldering session, apply a small amount of solder to prevent oxidation when not using the iron and place back in your holder. And if you look here, I have a number of tips that have been well used beyond their lifespan. So taking care of your tips will extend their life and your enjoyment with soldering. Please join me in the next video.